Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Not So Mainstream. And today I have with me Azeem Haq, who is a recording artist, musician, and a producer from Toronto, Canada. Welcome, Azeem. Thank you so much for taking out the time to do this.
Of course. Thank you, Zoa. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I am really excited because we're going to talk about so many things that you do. But first of all, I want to ask about the famous Go Leafs Go, which is recognized as Toronto Maple Leafs anthem. It's like all over social media. And I feel good about like hearing it. I'm so proud of you. And I also know that it's very close to your heart. So how do you feel about the whole experience and what do you want to share about that?
Well, yeah, I was born and raised in Toronto, and I have pretty big allegiances towards our teams here, the Blue Jays, Raptors, and Leafs, which I've made songs for all of them. But the Go Leafs Go song that you mentioned is probably the biggest one. It went kind of viral. People use it on Instagram, on their reels and everything, which is cool. But it all just came about because I'm a fan. I've been a big fan of the Leafs for a long time. So I make music, of course. And while I was making music one day, I was watching the Leafs game, and this particular team inspired me so much that I was like, you know what? Why don't we just make a quick little anthem, something fun, nothing too serious, and see what happens. Put it out there. So we put it out there, and Sportsnet picked it up, TSN, everybody, all the media affiliates, and not just them, but like CBS Sports out in the US, they did a little article on it. So, the momentum picked up, and so many different outlets decided to get on board, and they supported it. So, I was like, what, this is pretty cool. I mean, it probably was one of my bigger songs. So yeah, we did it again, and we did it for the Raptors, like I mentioned, and the Blue Jays. So it just became a thing, and yeah, people liked it.
People love it, like the way they're sharing it. It's like all over social media, as I said. So it's remarkable. So you've been doing this for quite a long time, like more than around like 15 years. How did you manage to like enter such a creative field? Because I know that being creative and having this career is some sort of a challenge because there is artistic urge to create something unique, and then there is all sort of like competition out there, so many things, so many variables. So how is your experience? Like, why are you doing what you're doing right now, and how did you manage to remain in this field and enjoy it as well?
Yeah, so it's been 15 years in almost a professional capacity, but I've been making music since I was 13 or 14 years old. Like it was almost a natural thing. It started with songwriting, poetry, and all that kind of stuff. But I've always been in the arts. So it started, I think, in grade 7. When I auditioned to be in a play in grade 7, and it was for Cinderella, and I played one of the ugly stepsisters, and from that it kind of, I just appreciated the arts and had this love for acting, and it eventually turned into music and kind of an overall appreciation for the arts. And I just knew that was something that I wanted to do, whether it was acting or music or both. So I pursued both. And again, when I was 14 years old, I started making music. And it was my mom, my uncle, he gave me, I told him one day, I said, I'm kind of interested in making original music. Can you help me? So, the next day he brought over a piano, a keyboard, and said, here, plug this into your computer. And I go, plug it into my computer, then what? And he goes, here's a software. And I had never used any multi-track program or anything before, or I'm 13 or 14, there's no courses for me to really learn. Back then there was not even YouTube back then. So I just installed it, and luckily I was tech savvy, and I learned the program, and then I just learned to make music by myself, just self-taught. And from there, I started sampling different artists and putting music together. And so that's how it all started when I was 14. And I got together with a couple of other guys who were like-minded. And we formed a group called EOS. And, we just experimented. We had fun kind of in my bedroom studio, just recording, messing around. But then one day, I think I was about 16 or 17 years old, we had just sent our songs out on CD to different people, record labels, radio stations. We had no idea what we were doing, to be honest with you. But we sent it all out, and then one day we got a call from our friend out in Edmonton, and he's like, "Yo, you guys are all over the radio. This is awesome." We're like, "What do you mean we're all over the radio?" I'm 16, 17 years old, still in high school, and I didn't know anything about radio promotion or anything like that. But apparently the radio station, a big one, a mainstream radio station out there, picked it up and started playing it. And we had no idea. Obviously, we didn't have radio trackers or anything like that at the time. But yeah, our friend was just so excited. And at that time, it made us realize, we're like, okay, now it's not just messing around anymore, right? There's something to this perhaps. And so we took it seriously.
That's serious, yeah.
Went to the studios and kind of marketed ourselves properly, invested in ourselves and that kind of stuff. So from that is where I really learned the basics of the industry. And, of course, during that time when I was a teenager, being Desi, there was a bit of, I thought would be a challenge with my parents, because typically our parents in the Desi community, they want us to be a doctor or a lawyer, engineer, those types of things.
That was actually the hidden intention of asking this question as well.
Yeah, so, my math and my science grades between us weren't all that good. So, and again, I had this love for the arts, so I had to sit down with my parents and, I thought I was just going to get a no, forget about it type of thing. So I just explained it to them, what I love and what I want to do. And, not only were they supportive, but my dad built my studio, for me. And him and my mom were very, very supportive. And that's kind of where I was like, okay, I can't mess this up now, right? Because they've given me their cosign, and I have to kind of make them, obviously I wanted to make them proud regardless, but I thought about it, what would be a happy medium, what should I do? So, I applied to theater programs, I applied to also journalism and broadcasting, because there's it kind of intertwines with what I do with audio production. And so I had gotten into journalism, I got into theater, I got into different programs. Theater was a bit challenging because, it's a very hard industry to get into. And so when I got into journalism and those broadcast programs, it kind of, sparked my interest that okay, I can do my audio production as well, but in the industry that would probably be more practical, you could say, right? It's a more solid career path. So I went into broadcasting, and specifically radio broadcasting. And I went to Seneca College at York University. And then soon after that, I started working in the radio industry for a radio station here in Toronto called Z1035. I stayed there for about 15 years as a producer. And during that time is where I really learned everything, about the music industry, because luckily it was a music radio station. So I learned things about radio promotion and how to really market my music. So once it became time for me to go kind of solo away from EOS, everybody kind of just went and did their things. I was prepared at that point to really, once I became a solo artist, it was very easy for me to adapt and to kind of hit it.
Yeah, and I really like how you explained about, getting into a career, like a solid career, but it was still related to what you were doing. So connecting the dots and exploring your own field, I think it's a joy to do that at the end of the day, if you can find that connection in other professions and jobs. And it's amazing. Your journey is remarkable. I really like listening to the whole story. And about having Desi parents, I think that is, again, for me as well, I feel that if we are successful in making them understand because most of the times creative fields are difficult to understand, what's gonna be the end result, how we're gonna make a living out of it, all those questions. Once you make them understand that, I think they're pretty supportive, most of them.
I had to be a little diplomatic. I didn't come and say, Mom and Dad, I want to be a rapper. I didn't really go all the way there. I kind of showed them that I make music. There's a production aspect. I think the production aspect really made them understand that, okay, there's more to it than just being silly in a studio and having fun. I produce commercials and TV ads and things of that nature as well. So, which brings me to present day. I have my own company now, which focuses on a lot of media production for different radio stations and television companies. We make music videos and things of that nature. So now especially nowadays, it's a completely different beast. But there was no fooling back then. I had to tell them, I had to sit down and actually make a presentation to say, listen, my grades are great, but then math is kind of bringing me down, right? Like, because I just didn't get it. It just wasn't for me. So luckily they were very understanding, and because of them, I was able to go off and do what I wanted to.
Absolutely, that's great. And yes, I totally believe and second that, because having gone through the similar kind of experience. So yeah, I have a follow-up question to what I asked before. That how does it feel like to create something, like in your case, music? Like how do you feel after, because that's your creation, right? Yeah, how does it feel?
I mean, it's therapeutic for me. That's kind of one of the reasons I got into songwriting in the first place, was really to just have an outlet to just get my feelings out. When you're a teenager, you have so many different emotions happening at the same time. So for me, it was just that outlet for me to spill it all out. I never really forced any music. There was never a thought. There was maybe a thought later on after we got on the radio. We're like, oh, we should make a club banger or get this, get it on the mainstream radio. There were those thoughts, but when it's unnatural, it a lot of the time it doesn't work. So whatever just comes out of your soul, your heart, then that I've noticed that's the more genuine the art is, the more receptive it's going to be from your audience. So I just try to make whatever I feel like talking about. And even like going back to the Leafs song, it's kind of just a fun little thing, but the Leafs mean a lot to me. I used to go to games with my dad all the time, and growing up in Canada, it's part of the culture, right? So yeah, it meant a lot to me. So if it means a lot to me, you're probably going to hear it in my music.
Perfect. Yeah, I really like asking this question to creative people, because everyone has a different, experience around that, and it's special. So thank you for answering that. Another question about your creative process. When you made your first song, how did it go? Like, what was the process, the end result, like when you recorded it? How was the feeling? Who did you share it with? Can you share that story?
Wow. My first song that I made was probably, again, when I was 13 or 14 years old, right? And it wasn't anything serious at all. It was pretty corny, to be honest with you. Now that I look back, I can't remember any of the lyrics, but I didn't know whether it was good or not. So, I had my friends, I kind of rapped it to them with the beat. And once I saw their reactions was when I was like, okay, maybe I have something here, because they were receptive and they were encouraging and positive. And I have those friends are they'll tell you how it is, they're very blunt, which I'm very thankful for, that I have those types of friends to give me that constructive criticism, even when I was 14 years old. But yeah, no, I can't even remember what the song was, but if you fast forward and talk about the EOS days, those songs that we made together, again, I can't remember what song was first, to be honest with you. It wasn't one of those things, because we would work on so many different songs at the same time. I would just put on a few beats and we would just start writing. But that whole process was just, I say it again, but it was that outlet, and we just had fun. It wasn't anything serious at the time. When it turned into a business, like once we actually became a corporation and a company, and the marketing and all that stuff comes into play, then it's not as fun, right? There's so many different variables that, aside from the creative, that you have to think about at that point. And I didn't get into it to be a marketing genius or anything like that, right? I just wanted to make music. But through that, I was able to actually learn about all these other things, like radio promotion and marketing and all these things, guerrilla style, right? We were just self-taught. We never went to school for it. But luckily, through the industry, we were able to learn all of it.
Great. And I totally agree. Like having friends who can be blunt with you are important because sometimes, you have friends, they will love all your work, but that's not going to get you anywhere. Like you need honest feedback, especially from people who are like close to you and around you.
100%.
You are also involved in a lot of like community work and volunteer work. How do you see music and art playing a role or being a foundation of such activities within the community? Like how much impactful it is?
Yeah, it's really important because I feel like music has a way of speaking to people greater than anything else. It can be very touching. It can touch your heart, your soul. So I've been part of the Sick Kids Foundation. I was an ambassador for Sick Kids Hospital. I spent a lot of time at Sick Kids. I had over a dozen surgeries there, so it was a very important cause to me. And I just tried to think of a way where I could give back through my music. There's nothing more important than that. And so, I just figured simply, why don't I just donate proceeds from all my music? If you listen to my music, then it goes towards a good cause. And once I did that, I was very proud of that, because we raised a lot of money together, and through music, again, you can change the world, to be honest with you. It sounds a little cliche and a little corny, but like we can do so much together because music brings people together, right? Even with the Leafs anthem, proceeds from that anthem went to MLSC Foundation to support kids, thriving in sports in the community. And now recently, I joined Scarborough Health Foundation and Scarborough Health Network for their Love Scarborough Foundation campaign. And so, we're going to be doing a lot of work together with them, and proceeds from my new music will be going towards Scarborough Health Network, which is it's another important cause to me, especially growing up in Scarborough. There's a lot of unaddressed issues here that we have in our hospitals and in our communities. So hopefully we can work together to make that better.
That's remarkable, and so much going on at your side. So that's great. And I again agree with you about music being an uplifting source. But I also believe that even if you're sad, like if you're listening to a good song, you also enjoy that sad part of your life too.
Sometimes you just want to listen to some sad music. It's reflective of
powerful,
your
I guess. Yeah,
100%.
I totally agree. All right, so what's next for you? Any upcoming projects, anything to look forward to? What do you have?
Yeah, so I've been kind of locked away in my studio for a little while, creating, just trying to figure out new sounds, trying to adapt to the times type of thing. Last year I released a song called My City. It was featuring some pretty big artists, The Game, Fredro Starr, Lazarus, and Jordan, which did really well for me. So I've been just trying to ride off of that momentum. And we have a lot of new music coming. I can't really say who the artists are that I'm working with, but like I'm really excited to have these people on my project, because like even with My City, The Game, and Fredro, and all these artists that I've been working with, I've been big fans of them, right? So I've just been trying to approach different artists who I've been a fan of their work, and just saying, hey, do you want to work together, get together and do some stuff? So I've been getting a lot of really great feedback from people, whether they're working with me or not. I've been talking to some really legendary artists, which have been, just talking to them in itself has been very beneficial, and I've learned so much. I can't wait to drop the next projects.
That's awesome. I'm really looking forward to know who the artists are and all the work that you're doing. Good luck for that. And lastly, I want to ask you, what advice or what do you want to say to all the aspiring artists who want to break into field you are in, or any creative field at all?
All I can say is, perfect your craft. You can never stop working, right? Like I'm always learning new things, and I think knowledge is very powerful, and it's key to what anybody wants to do. It doesn't need to be just creative. Any industry, they say 10,000 hours. you put 10,000 hours into something to be great. And that's so true, because I feel like a lot of people might have sense of entitlement when they're going into something and saying, you know what, overnight I'm going to be a superstar, I'm going to become the next big thing. And yeah, maybe you will, right? Maybe you're going to have that ounce of luck that will propel you to the top very quickly. But most of the time, that's not the way it works, right? You got to pay your dues, you got to work your butt off. And like, again, I've been doing this since I was 14 years old, working my butt off to a certain goal. In the beginning, I didn't know that was what the goal was going to be. Eventually, I understood where the target was. So, you know, again, I just work hard. That's pretty much a simple thing to say. But yeah, just go after it if you want it.
Great, and enjoy the process, I would say. Involved.
100%. Well, that's why I got into it in the first place. You know, being, I guess you can relate to being in the creative field. We're not in this particularly for the money. I mean, the money can be great if you know, find success, but we're in this for the love of it.
Yeah.
Firstly, right? So love and passion, and I think automatically you're going to work hard because you love something so much. If you don't love it, then maybe you should find something else, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I love the message. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your experience and your wisdom with us. I really appreciate your time. And for everyone who is watching, I'm gonna put the details about your songs and your work in the description of this video. And again, thank you so much for the time.
Thank you.
And for everyone else who's watching, I'll see you in the next video.